Koreans Presses, Dove and Dragon Radio. I'm your host, M.L.Ruscsak. Today's show is brought to you by Zephyra, beautiful jewelry. And I'm here with guest, Dr. Kevin, and his wonderful, it looks like cream and everything else here going on. So we're going to get into that, but welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the show.
So I'm looking at your website and this slide goes really, very fast. So it's a plant-based C19 complete cream. Am I looking at this right?
So I have several products on the market, but one of my major reasons for reaching out to the community is to share a book that I currently released.
Awesome.
Called Preserve Your Curves, Spinal Freedom with Yoga and Pilates. And so, but before I go into the book, let me say a statement that might grab your audience attention a little bit. Mm-hmm. If I told you that every single day, millions of Americans are unknowingly paying to get injured, what would you think if I told you that? And it's 100%.
I would say you're absolutely right.
Yes. So the purpose of the book is that I saw many injuries in my office from not only the beginner yoga students, but seasoned instructors. Mm-hmm. And then I started to question, well, how is this happening? These are the instructors. Why is this occurring? And I started to dive deeper into the actual biomechanics of the movements of both yoga and Pilates. And what I discovered was shocking in that, believe it or not, about 30 to 50% of the movements, I've done well over 1,000 different classes and have researched many of the different movements, actually cause injury and it's injury over time. That's why people don't notice it right away. Mm-hmm. And so I felt compelled, well, I got to do a book and then release it to the public. And we released it last fall, and I'm hoping to basically standardize the do's and don'ts. Because I'm one of these yoga advocates. I love yoga. I use yoga to help my patients. So this isn't an anti-yoga movement. It's to help evolve it with what we know today of the science of biomechanics.
Right. We have to look at it as we're taking a class. The class is supposed to help us. Well, one, if we're not doing the routine properly, it's going to cause injury. But also, yes, if we're not well versed in the movements, even as an instructor, it's going to cause injury over time. It's not going to happen overnight. You pull a muscle, tear an ACL or something like this. It's going to happen come over time. It's 5 years, 10 years, however long you do it.
That's right. It could happen immediately or it could happen over time. I've seen both situations, particular for a beginner student. They're the most vulnerable. The real danger is that we've all heard of the runner's high, that you get running and you start the endorphins, and it actually masks any potential harm to the body because you're just feeling this elation. And so the same thing actually happens in yoga. You got the breathing, you got the movement, and when you combine those things, you're going to feel amazing, even if you're doing the wrong stuff. And that's very confusing to someone who's practicing, because they'll be saying, how could it be bad for me? I just feel amazing every time. And so that's the real challenge I've had in trying to explain this, because when you feel good and it's technically exercise, then how could it ever be wrong for me?
Right.
And so
we hear all the time, over exercising is not good for you.
That's right.
Well, you get the same principle even with yoga. If you're overworking a muscle and not realizing it, it's actually bad for you.
So it was real important for me. So in the book, I've distilled over 100 different peer-reviewed scientific resources into an easy to understand manual with over 160 different photos covering the most common things we'll see in a typical yoga class. And the purpose is I show the traditional pose and then I give a modification that helps preserve the curves. And when I say preserve the curves, we're talking about the curves of the spine. And so many movements in yoga and Pilates actually compromise the curves, or as I like to say, remove the spring from the coil or spoil the coil. And so having those visual cues in the book, I felt were very important. And it's really easy to understand. Because I do yoga myself probably 5 days a week. And so I go in these classes and I do the modifications on spot. They're very easy to do. And it actually is going to make yoga more popular, safer, and more beneficial. I like to say, boost your benefits while you're reducing your risk. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's almost an obligation for any yoga instructor, any studio owner, as they owe this obligation to their clientele, to their students, to ensure not only their safety, but they're getting the most benefit. Because people don't want to blame yoga, they'll blame themselves. They'll say, I'm out of shape, I'm too old. And in reality, when you go into a yoga class, most of the people in there should be older. It's about longevity. When I go to yoga classes, most of the people there are on the younger side. It's because the research has proven every year injuries are on the rise. I have a citation in my book. It's a 14-year study. And for 14 years in a row, emergency room visits as a result of yoga have increased. And a lot of this is geared towards the older demographic. It's because they're trying to get in shape in a controlled setting that they're paying for, and they're actually getting hurt. That should never occur. Should never occur.
Right.
And so hopefully we can start the movement of just understanding how we can make these modifications.
Excuse me, Shai, I need you to take this and I'll do this later. I'm going to show right now.
All right.
Thank you. Joys of working at home is also being mom.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is. 2020 has taught me a lot of things about my daughter, and I miss school.
I think everyone can relate.
Yes. But no, we have a lot of research on yoga. Yoga's been around for several decades, hundreds of years. You go to India, it's a staple of life. But sure, we have to, in the Western world, especially, because we're learning from people and we're using the guidelines from the internet a lot of times to become an instructor.
Sure.
So we have to learn actually how to do this properly, safely, and teach our classes the correct technique. Because in principle, yoga is for longevity, but in reality, we're not teaching it properly.
That's right. And teaching it properly can be, unfortunately, it means a few different things. Because if we teach traditional yoga even perfectly, it can be harmful to our bodies. Mm-hmm. So that's what the shocking thing I discovered is that some of these poses, even if they were executed perfectly, are still going to harm the spine. So what we have to do, what I'm advocating is not only learning what I presented, but more importantly, we're in a group setting usually when we practice yoga. We are all different. And so what person A does doesn't necessarily mean what person B does. And so I advocate people learning I call it the spinal blueprint. and it's a one-time screening. And I show people how to get that done through this international organization. And it's a one and done. And they know what they should and should not do for the rest of their life. And this goes beyond yoga. This goes for Pilates, personal training, activities of daily living, ergonomics at work. And so it's a really, really powerful screening that people do one time, and they have that life insurance to know exactly the do's and don'ts. It's kind of like you go to your dentist, they say, here's a toothbrush, here's some floss, here's some toothpaste. And the dentist doesn't brush your teeth, you do it. And so they empower you to prevent toothaches. And, you know, they've done a great job at it. When was the last time you saw someone with the toothache? It's pretty rare. And I feel the same should be about spinal injuries. They should be a really rare occurrence unless it's some kind of undue trauma. And I would say 95% of stuff that walks in my office should not walk in here. And so I've been on this platform of prevention. I always say my intention is prevention. Teach the patient what to do so they don't need to come back to my office. Just like the dentist enables and empowers the patient to take care of themselves, we as doctors need to do the same. And unfortunately, this leads me to my next shocking statement, is that even though the intention's not there, it's 99% of all healthcare providers, including medical doctors, physical therapists, and yes, even chiropractors, unfortunately mismanage spinal conditions and injuries. And I can explain how on each one of those. Medical doctors are very good at telling you, okay, you've injured this, right? They'll do an MRI, an X-ray. They say, oh, you have arthritis, you have a herniation. What they don't tell you is how it got there and why. This is what all your listeners should really clue into, is ask their doctor, why do I have this? Why do I have the arthritis? Why do I have the blown disc? So sorry about that.
It's all right. We work from home, it happens.
Well, this is my office. You'll stop in a second. So there it goes. We do, for acute injuries, we do laser guided, computer aided liquid nitrogen. And so we have big liquid nitrogen tanks that occasionally want to talk and contribute to shows like yours.
Yeah, of course.
But back to, you know, medical doctors, I work with them, they refer to me, and I hope they'll try to inform the patient of why they have something. And one of the flaws that the medical doctor does, they'll take an X-ray, but they don't take it mostly in a weight-bearing position that gives that biomechanical information to their patient. And more importantly, they often refer to a physical therapist. And so the physical therapist needs to look at something or have some kind of point of reference as to properly tailoring the rehab exercises for the recovery, but also for them to do it at home. And so the physical therapists most of the time don't look at any X-ray at all. And the medical doctors aren't taking the films the proper way. And so this is why we need to create a new standard. Are you still there?
I am here. I was just instructing my daughter to do something for me since she's in my room in the office.
All right. No worries. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that we, for the future, we need to put our egos down. Chiropractors, physical therapists, and medical doctors, we all need to work together. And we can standardize this system. The system is already out there. It's already been peer reviewed. There's 35 years of research on standardizing the analysis of the spine and what to do to intervene. And we need to all speak the same language. And so because chiropractors don't do this either, unfortunately. 99% of chiropractors evaluate the spine improperly. And so they don't evaluate it biomechanically in a way that offers long-term correction. Instead, they say, I'm going to fix it with my hands. So they're great at releasing a restriction of a spine, but they're never going to change the shape. You can see a chiropractor 7 days a week. They'll never change the shape of the spine. And so I'm advocating even my own profession to learn this system so that we can all speak the speak, standardize it for the benefit of the public. And this is why chiropractors have been criticized that, you know, once you go to one, you got to keep going to one. It's because they're not changing the spine. They're just alleviating that fixation for that moment. And they can offer pain relief. They can offer increased range of motion, and there's endorphin release, but it won't change the spine. And so just like the dentists have done an amazing job, we healthcare providers.
It's time for a change within the healthcare system for the
That's right.
itself.
And it's going to save billions of dollars, because my patients before COVID were flying to me all over the country and sometimes from other countries, because I could, in 1 or 2 visits, empower them so they don't even need to see me. And so that's what we got to do. We got to come together, educate the public on how to prevent the spine from getting injured in the first place. And then they can apply that to whether it's yoga, Pilates, personal training. And so I really, really hope that people will want to understand the principles in the book and follow those guidelines, because those aren't my guidelines. I'm merely a medium distilling 35 years of research into an easy, understandable platform. This isn't Dr. Khalili's platform. This is just me providing it for the general public, and I'm hoping other healthcare providers would take notice as well.
Well, first we have to get it to the public, and then second, we need to get the public to take the book to their healthcare providers and say, look, can we try this?
Yeah, and I'll offer this to all your providers. If you're a patient, if you're a student, and you want to provide this book to your clients, to your doctors, email me directly. I'll send you the book for free. Okay. This is how passionate I am to get this out there. This information needs to be in the hands of studio owners and in healthcare providers. If you're a studio owner or a healthcare provider and you email me directly regarding this podcast, then mentioning your name, then I'll know where it comes from. I'll gladly send you this information for free.
See, we love giving away things for free. We love connecting people that's going to get the message out there, because we have so many people out there, so many studio owners, so many Pilates instructors, yoga instructors, doctors, chiropractors, the list goes on and on. But we need to get this out there because we need to do something for the spine itself. We're not utilizing the one thing that keeps us vertical.
Absolutely. It's it really, I hope this information gets out there. You know, I'm at a point in my life, I've been practicing 28 years, you know, beyond happy and grateful for everything that's happened to me. And you reach a point where it's time to share beyond your clinical walls. And that is my intention here. And I really hope your audience can receive this, and because they're the ones that are going to benefit. It's not about me. It's all about them. And I want to see them actually do more yoga, do more personal training, do more Pilates. I mean, the ironies in my community, I have the medical doctors referring, the yoga people referring, the Pilates people referring. You know, I can handle my little community, but this needs to go out there on a global effort. And the science is there. We've got to start changing the tune. This is not a flat world. This is a round world. And the same antagonistic belief back then is happening now, because everyone thinks, well, my yoga instructor is great. I'm sure they're great, but they don't know this information. You know,
Right.
I've been to probably, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 classes. I've never been to a class yet that was done right without me modifying. So all wonderful people, all well intended, but they don't understand the information. And so hopefully we can start this platform.
Right. Why not take our yoga one step further and actually teach our instructors to teach us properly?
That's it. That's it. Yeah, they have the facility, they have the know-how. The modifications are so easy. I mean, it's so easy. When you look at the pictures, you're like, wow, I can do that. And so I'm not here to complicate things. I'm here to make it easier, and you're going to get more out of it. I can honestly tell you, I'm 51 years old, that because of yoga, I'm in the best shape of my life, but I do it in a modified way. And I told you, I go at least 5 days a week. It is a wonderful, beautiful practice. And so I want to help it grow. But honestly, it breaks my heart to ever see a single injury. You know, in a controlled setting that you're paying for, you should never, ever get injured. It's really inexcusable. You know, in a sport, whether it's tennis, football, basketball, well, you can get injured. It's not controlled. But in yoga, it's totally controlled. It's yourself, it's your practice. It needs to be individualized with an emphasis on spinal health. And there's other aspects too, knee, shoulder, but
Yeah.
this book is emphasizing, you know, the spine, because the studies show that's the area that's most often injured.
Well, since we're on the subject, since there are other aspects that are known to be hurt, are you writing another book based on the other injuries caused by improper yoga?
One of my other passions is tennis. And there's a new phenomenon in America. It's actually the fastest growing sport in America, called pickleball. And so I'm seeing a lot of injuries from pickleball and tennis. So I'm going to use these principles that I write about in the yoga book and gear it towards the tennis and pickleball community. And, you know, it's every sport's different.
Mhm.
And this is primarily an off-court book on what you can do off the court to help prevent injuries on the court. But that's a future project that I've been working on for about 9 years now. The yoga book was a 14-year project because I really wanted to immerse into the arts and really do a lot of yoga myself rather than just to release this book prematurely.
Well, you have to do the research. When you write in a nonfiction book, you have to do the research. You can't just jump in it and have it done in 6 months. It's not going to do the book or the reader's justice. So a fantasy or fiction book, you can write a book in 6 months or a year.
That's right.
But a nonfiction, this is what our readers have to understand. It takes 9, 10, 15 years to do the research properly.
To do it right. To do it right. Yeah. You know, I live and breathe this. I see patients 60 plus hours a week. I'm totally immersed. I'm a hands-on practitioner. And so, like I said before, the irony is that when I see a spinal injury, I'm often having the patients film me do the proper yoga for their body. So it's like they come in injured, but I'm giving them yoga to heal them, but it's tailored to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how much I believe in yoga. And so some people might say I'm against yoga. That is absolutely not the truth. So it's real important for the audience to know I'm very pro yoga, and that's why I'm doing this, to protect your yoga. It's like, I got your back, literally.
I was going to say, you're doing this literally to protect our backs. I mean,
that's it.
Both metaphorically and reality. This is all to promote our longevity. This is all to promote the spine. This is all to promote the craft of yoga.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I will keep on this path. I'm going to speak publicly, and I feel like this is one of my goals in life right now, is to just keep speaking the truth. That's all I'm doing. I'm just sharing the truth.
Well, that's all you can do, is speak up, get a loud microphone and blast it as loud as you can to as many people as you can. Eventually, someone's going to hear it and help you get your message out. And I can't talk.
Okay, that's all right. But, we've been talking a lot. And, like I said, I'm going to remind your audience, studio owners, healthcare providers, email me directly. I'll send you a copy of the book. And what money is made on the book, I'm going to be donating it. So this is not a get rich scheme. This is an awareness. I call it, it's about the share, the care, and making people aware. That's what this is about. And I'm going to use whatever resources come in to go to certain nonprofits. One of them are the people who did a lot of the science that created this book. So I feel like you got my tribute and gratefulness back to that entity.
That is always wonderful, to give back to the community that has helped you
Absolutely.
grow. Everything that we do as authors is to give back in some way or another. It doesn't matter if it's giving back to the science communities that help us with our non-fictional books, if it's donating to a nonprofit for animals, or whatever we do, it's to give back in some way.
I want to share something that's said in almost every yoga class, and you can probably relate. So when you go into class, they often say, well, class, we're going to do this. Imagine lengthening your spine. They often say we want to lengthen our spine. They themselves are admitting that the force of injury. Our spine, remember, is curves. The title of the book is Preserve Your Curves. We all know if you lengthen a spring, or if you lengthen the curves, it goes into a straight line. The last thing we want to do in a yoga class, even though the instructors say it a lot, is lengthen the spine. But they are correct. That is what's occurring in a lot of these poses. And when you lengthen the spine, science says you're going to create spinal disc damage, spinal cord damage, and irritation of the spinal nerves and the corresponding adjacent structures. And so it's amazing how they're not correlating what they're saying to actually what's occurring. We don't ever want to lengthen the spine. There's some super rare cases where that's necessary, but for 95% of us, we do not want that. It lends itself to an injury. And it can happen even in the restorative yoga classes or the yin classes. Because a lot of people say, well, they're just getting injured because yoga's become like, Navy SEAL yoga, where it's gotten too fast. And that's true too, but it's really about the improper motion. A bad motion is a bad motion. And so we need to modify the motions so that they are conducive to our spinal health. But I just wanted to bring your audience to that, because it's said in almost every class. The only thing we want to lengthen in yoga is a tight muscle. And the only thing we want to strengthen is a weak muscle. And so it's really important that we try to preserve our spinal curves. And there's some wonderful ways to do that in yoga, as I illustrate with pictures.
Well, that's great that you have the pictures there. And while we have a few minutes, where can our listeners and our viewers find you?
So drkhalili.com. So drkhalili.com. Again, D is in dog, R is in Robert, khalili.com. So on there, it's an easy download, $9.95 cost for that book. And I'm more than willing to give it away to the influencers of our community, healthcare providers and studio owners. It's vital. They are the people who influence the community.
Right. They're the ones that's teaching us how to do these. So
That's it.
that's all this is getting it out there, giving you, the studio advisors, instructors, knowledge on how to do this and teach it properly.
That's it. That's it. And so I really, really hope this just is the beginning and it starts to escalate and that we get a movement. It's all about creating a movement of
It'll
change.
take time, but it will get out there.
It's going to take time, and I have plenty of patience, and this will happen, whether it takes 6 months or 16 years. I'm going to keep talking the talk, and I actually, like I said, walk the talk. I'm a yoga person. I believe in health and wellness. You know, everything you see on my website, I live that way. And I'm, like I said, at 51, I feel way healthier than when I was a teenager or when I was in my 20s. I feel much more vibrant. I feel like we want to thrive to 105. It's a slogan we use. You know, it's not about living long. It's about thriving while we're here.
Right.
And so we can easily, biologically, physiologically, it's been proven, we can thrive to 105. And so that's what it's about while we're on this planet.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And for all our viewers and our listeners, happy reading.
Thank you so much.